So we just, I mean, we've always just released albums, and before the pandemic already, we had a lot of unreleased music that we were working on and trying to finish off. We started working on a whole other bunch of music that we already started, is basically already all mixed by Peter Cadis, and that's a whole other album. That's basically Utopia 3 and 4. How's it going, man?
I'm doing well. How are you both doing?
We're doing good.
Good.
Patti just got back from Kung Fu, and literally just took one bite of a meatloaf sandwich that she made for herself because she had 2 seconds off to take the kids to bed. And we have wine because here it is 9 p.m.
No, because we're drunks and alcoholics.
Okay. Well, if you want to eat your sandwich, it's fine with me.
No, we're good.
Okay.
Patti doesn't need to eat anything. She's a mom. She can do it.
I love that. Well, thank you both so much for being here. I'm so excited to talk with you. My name's Adam, and this is about you both and your journey in music, and obviously the new EP and the new record label and all the fun stuff coming out with St. Lucia. So
cool.
Sweet.
Let's go.
Awesome. I love your background, by the way. It looks like a virtual one, but it's probably just totally a painting.
No.
It's actually a tapestry. It's an otomi from Mexico. It's like the otomi people
just
make it. You see it a lot in on pillowcases and stuff. But I picked this up actually in LA at the Natural History Museum a few years ago. There was like an exhibit of Central and South American folk art, and this was there calling my name, and it was like a good price. So
that's awesome. That looks so good.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, we love it. It's like our fave, I think.
So you said it's a South African piece?
No,
Mexican
actually.
Oh, Mexican piece. Okay. Because you're from
you
South
probably
Africa.
recognize there's a lot. You see a lot of this stuff, but you don't often see people like this, and it's like a bit more detailed.
You see often these ones.
Oh, sure. Okay. I'm from San Diego. I know a little Tijuana area. That's about it.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a very cool piece. So, well, I guess Gene, born in South Africa, correct?
Correct.
What was it like growing up there? It's so fascinating to me.
It was, I mean, to me, it was normal, just like anyone growing up anywhere. You're just like, this is where I live. It's
right.
I'm sure people in the future who, live in a place where they have flying cars and stuff will just be like, this is how I live.
I mean, it was like pretty intense. Like you went to the most beautiful, school with in the mountains. It's
oh wow,
Harry Potter shit.
I went to this choir school called the Drakensberg Boys Choir. That was I always describe it as Hogwarts but with music, which is a kind of magic, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, especially in retrospect, it was obviously very interesting growing up there because there's such a interesting and dark and just all sorts of whatever you want to call it, cultural rub with things,
Mm-hmm.
And it's I mean, I feel very fortunate to have grown up there because I think I feel so lucky to have been exposed to so many cultures and just to I don't know how to talk about it. It was amazing, and I miss it.
It's a really special.
It's a beautiful country, and whenever we were just there for 5 weeks at the start of the year with the kids, and there's just such a joy and a vibrancy to the place that
you can only feel when you're there. You know, it's
okay. Well, you said you went to a choir school,
Mm-hmm.
and that's amazing. And so I'm imagining you have to audition to get into the school. And how do you get in there? And how do you get into music originally?
Well, you have to audition. It's a very small school. It's 100 kids about. And
what song did you sing?
I sang From a Distance.
This is the best.
From a distance, the world looks blue.
That's so cute.
And I was just, I don't know, my parents always say that it wasn't because I had the best voice at school, but because I had the loudest. They always gave me the solos.
Nothing's changed.
Which is still true.
Okay.
And then I just went and auditioned. Long story, and then something called me there because I was having a hard time at school, and I was always running away and climbing up trees and running away from teachers and stuff. And there was something about that place that was challenging, and there was just this deep musical education. I mean, we were doing like 2 hours of choir practice every day. We'd go on an international tour every year for like a month. You know, so I went to Japan, went to the States twice, Europe, Australia. You know, it was just like this amazing experience to have as a kid, and also totally surrounded by nature, like in the mountains. And
yeah, pretty insane.
Yeah, you know, like kind of the stories you hear from like when you know, from your grandparents or something. You know, it was like we would, you know, in the afternoons we'd go and build a fort by the river and just swim in the river, or go on a hike. And like there'd be baboons, you know, and monkeys, and a kid would catch a snake and bring it to, you know, just like all this kind of stuff. Yikes. Which to me was totally normal. I mean, it was, you know, and at the time I was just like, like, especially when I was, you know, getting more into my teens, because I went there when I was 10 and left when I was 15. And, you know, when I was like 13, 14, I was like, this place sucks. I just want girls, because it was all boys. Boys. And occasionally we'd have choirs visiting from somewhere, and occasionally it was like a, you know, a mixed choir, and it was just like some shenanigans would go down.
Oh, is it now?
Patty's like, tell me these stories.
No, you're the only one I've ever had, for sure.
You're right.
Don't worry.
Right. That's right.
Did you come from a musical household?
One generation behind me, yes. Or above my parents. So my mom played. My mom's dad was apparently an amazing pianist, and he had like a deformed hand from like swimming in a radioactive dam at some point, like I don't know, whatever.
It's so weird.
But he was apparently an amazing pianist, and he just do the bass with this kind of deformed hand. I never met him. And I don't know, there was music and entertainment in my parents' generation. Okay. My mom she made documentaries growing up. Like, she was a documentary maker.
That's cool.
She made documentaries about like,
so still arts in your family, obviously.
Arts, and you know, and I always would go along with her on shoots. And when I got a bit older, I would do the sound for her really, really badly, and she goes,
"Oh wow,
to fix it." And I remember like there was this one program she did once about bats, like bat houses, and I remember climbing into this huge like bat house with like a rifle mic, just with bats everywhere, and it just smelled like bat poop, guano.
That's like terrifying me right now. Like, oh my gosh, I could not handle that at all.
And this is when you turned into Batman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Batman. The radioactiveness from my grandfather's hand.
Yes.
Yeah. So it kind of, but definitely, you know, artistic and like my parents were definitely very encouraging for what I do. You know, like they always open-minded, and like my mom would sometimes try and dissuade me because, you know, she was in the biz and she knew the, you know, the dark side of it all. And actually my godfather was this guy, Bill Fora, who directed the series Shaka Zulu, which was I remember really that. Famous, like he directed, and my mom actually produced it when she was pregnant with me, and she was dealing with all the musicians and stuff, and she thinks maybe that's why I was musical, because she was dealing with all the music. And and he was like a famous film director from South Africa, and so there's definitely been arts around, you know.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's cool that your family was that, I mean, supportive of it, even to send you to a choir high school. I mean, that's big in itself, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean,
not a lot of people have that. Usually it's like, no, you're going to go learn this instead. But wow, what about you, Patti? You're from Germany. Is that what I read?
Yeah, I'm from where we currently are at, and I basically grew up in this place. Yep, that's it.
Wow, that's Germany. It. Tell me about it.
That's it. That's me.
Catholic town in south of Germany on the border with Switzerland. On a lake.
Very idyllic, like super idyllic. I guess we had idyllic in our lives. We're fortunate to have that, because mountains, lakes, all that stuff is here, you know. So yeah, it's really nice.
And how
it's
did
really
you
good being a kid here, you know.
Really? Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of nature there as well.
You have like a sense of like independence from a really young age, because it's pretty safe here. And you know, we walk to school by ourselves, and you know, I pick up my friend, and I feel like Indy will do that soon. And you know, I mean, he goes to like by himself already, and he's 4. So
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, we don't, just for the record, we don't just let him like go by himself.
Well, no, because times have changed, but
he'll go ahead. Like, so there's this amazing Italian gelateria in town called Dolomiti that's been here since Patti was a kid. And he just knows the way. So he'll just go on his bicycle.
I'll just tell him.
And he'll already be ordering when he gets there, you know.
That's cool. Is it cool being back in your hometown? Like
I love it.
Raising your kids there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like yes and no. You know, I love it here and it's ideal for kids, but I miss our friends in America, and I miss the States in general. I think there's a certain a vibe there and energy there, and people, they're very, you know, people always like say, oh, Americans are sometimes like, you know, so, you know, I love Americans. I love the fact that like everybody's friendly and like actually generous and kind of open-minded. And I always feel that like when you have an idea there and like you talk to somebody about it, somehow it happens, you know, you get into a place where it's like, oh yeah, I know somebody like who can help you with that. And then you meet somebody else and like, I don't know. That
just feels like there's a few more roadblocks.
Yeah, I feel sometimes.
Okay.
Just, oh, yeah, good, like very traditional here, you know. So I'm sometimes like, come on, you know. So I miss that, but I think for the kids, this is really cool, like really cool, and we have family around, so it's really helpful.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's always a huge help. My family, I have 2 kids, and we moved to Nashville like a little over a year ago. A year in February. Or it was a year in February.
So are you now in Nashville?
Yeah, just south of Nashville in the suburbs.
And you're from Nashville?
No, from San Diego.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
Yeah, so we moved here. My wife and I were all from San Diego originally, and we moved here, and just, I mean, both of our parents and siblings, everyone lives in San Diego still. So it's like we got here and it's like no help. You know what I mean? To have the help and support is so big, and we didn't realize how big it. I mean, we knew it was big, but you come here and you don't have it, and it's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, totally. It's crazy. I mean, it's like we basically the whole of 2020 experienced that with how old was Indy at the time?
2. Just
being locked down in an apartment, you know, with a kid, and you're just like,
and pregnant with child.
Yeah, I was gonna say, from what I read, your second child was born in 2020.
Yeah, Friday the 13th.
November the 13th.
2020.
November 13th.
So he's gonna be a very lucky kid, probably, or whatever.
No, it was so it was definitely like, you definitely realize, and maybe that prompted the move actually, because it was like I sat there and I was like, my life has changed completely. Where am I? And then now what do we do? You know? So
for sure.
But it's great. We now have our studio in our apartment, and it's in the building that Patti's parents live in.
Oh, amazing.
And and it's you know, sometimes it can be a bit much, but most of the time it's a great flow, because, you know, if we're inspired, everything's just here. I mean, this room that we're in, our living room, I'll just show you around real quick.
Oh, I'd love to.
There's the piano, and this is the piano that's all over the record, you know, and this is like, the studio is just behind this wall. And so we just do everything here, you know, and just like all percussion, just everything is done in the space, and the kids hear it happening, and it's the family's part of it. And for all of its imperfections, it just has a certain vibe, and it's not like, okay, we're going to the studio now.
I think for me especially, you know, in New York we had the studio elsewhere, and it was really, I always had to organize, you know, babysitters or this and that, and or you know, we'd take Indy with us, and then I couldn't do that much, you know, and it was just, I think even if I don't actively go into the studios that much, the doors open and I hear what's going on, and it's huge, you know, I just know what's coming out. And then like today he started like a song, and I heard I heard the beginnings of it, and I was like, oh, I hear this, you know, and then, you know,
just run the room and
show it. And then you already had one, so I was like,
I did, but no, I think like it's going to be a combination in the end.
But it's been nice for me in that way, you know, in like a new kind of way. Yeah.
Was that kind of how this recent EP was built? Just that way?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. I mean, the drums were recorded in Brooklyn with Dustin. just because, you know, I had to go back and forth for a few DJ sets and a few things. But everything else was just recorded here, you know, like, and it's just great. And what's so nice about these old European houses is they have like pretty good acoustics in general, because the, you know, things are slightly uneven and not exactly perfect, and a lot of wood around. So like I'll record things in the bathroom, in the kitchen, or in the hallway, and it's just like a reverb from, you know, and it's fairly quiet. You know, sometimes you hear a car passing by or a siren, whatever, but it adds to this kind of vibe a little bit.
Yeah. You know? I like that grit kind of sound in records. It's not like fully, you know, ridiculously polished. Like some of the little things like that are really cool to kind of find. Like here, you're like, oh, a little Easter egg. There's a ambulance driving by at this time signature, whatever it is. Like,
yeah, and you actually,
cool.
It's interesting that way, because like, you know, I didn't go to school for like audio engineering or anything. I studied like songwriting and stuff, but I've learned so much about mic technique because of that, like eliminating the noise. You know, if you're recording, you're just like, okay, well, I need to use this mic that only picks up from here. And like, I've been using only a dynamic mic on my voice, which is, I don't know how much you know about mic, but like, so it's like basically what you're using, like using an SM7, right? Yeah, so similar mic that is just, you know, basically it doesn't pick up any noise.
It doesn't pick up the room. Right. I had a condenser mic, and it was a nightmare to deal with, because I had to get like the gate and everything all perfect, or you could hear like any sound from like across the room. It was, I
always feel like those mics reproduce the human voice actually the most naturally. It's not like zing, you know, it's not like a thing, but it's got this nice sort of honky mid-range in a way that I like.
Honky mid-range.
Honky mid-range. Well, Patti, how did you get into music?
Pretty late, actually. I always was doing music, but like I didn't actually think of it as like a professional thing. It was always, I'm a very sensitive soul, but like it was always it was more of a, I would say, a healing tool in a way. Like I would always play the piano, and like if I was sad or crying, I would go and play it, you know, like in these moments it was always
and you're a really good pianist. Like you can rip some classical things.
I'm not that good. I can.
Was that your first instrument?
You're not
piano?
Lang Lang.
Yeah.
You're not Lang Lang. You're good.
Well, it's always been there, you know, and it's always like, I would say it's always been a healing tool more than anything for me, or like like some form of expression. But I'm very shy when it comes to my stuff, actually, and very, you know.
The hardest thing with Patti is she will just sit at the piano and just play the most beautiful thing, and I will literally be crying from, this is so beautiful, and I'll be like, babes, I have to record this, and she can't do it again.
Of course she
can't do it again.
But this is what I mean.
But somehow it inspires something down the road. But it's just like, I need to just have mics on the piano at all times.
I was just gonna say that.
But it doesn't work like that. You know, the moment I know that there's something there, it kind of changes. It's like that
the dual slit experiment.
Oh, right. You know, you could like, stick something under, I don't know, figure out a way to do it where you can like hit it from your phone or something, and then
but it would still collapse the wave state of the quantum field.
Oh, okay. She would know somehow.
I would somehow know. My waves would know those waves. No, okay. So it was, but I always loved it. I always played the piano. I loved singing. I loved like just twinkling and whatever. And then I met Jean, and it was interesting because he is like, he knew exactly what he wanted, you know, and like musically, he is so like, and always has been clear. Like he's very clear. Like, this is what I want. This is what I hear. This is like what I do. And like, it's not always the same stuff. Obviously, like we've gone through many years of like different music, you know, but I don't know. We just, we connected, and we also we connected musically as well. And at one point we were just like, oh, maybe we should just start doing some stuff together, because we were naturally doing it anyway, you know, together.
Well, we were also working. We moved to New York to work at a jingle house, like a music house, and Patti started singing on a lot of the stuff that I was doing. Like if I needed female vocals, And I think it was just that made me go like, oh damn, like you sound really good on these tracks. I think there's still a couple out there with Patti. There's like a Capital One ad. There was
wow,
from back in the day. This was like 2006, 2007, and yeah.
We actually tried to avoid working with one another because everybody always said like, oh, you're together and it's bad for the relationship. It's blah 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 blah, you know, all that stuff. So I always, you know, you think like, oh yeah, we keep things
probably
separate.
Right. Yeah.
Better, it's probably better. And then, but I think naturally we just felt like, or it just was natural, you know, we sort of had it that way. And then at one point, Jean kind of said, oh, maybe you should just join my band, you know? And I was like, be careful, you know, we might get signed. And then we got signed. So.
well, real quick.
Because of me, really.
Well, obviously. So did you meet in the UK when you were going to school, John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This year is our 20th year together.
Now everybody knows that we're really old.
Wow. Yeah. That is so amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, we were young.
So yeah,
I was gonna say, I think we're about the same age, so I'm there with you.
26.
yeah, well, 25. But
I went to England to go to the school. We both went to the school LIPA, which Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts, which is the school Paul McCartney started.
Wow.
And it's literally the school he went to growing up. And
that's crazy.
We both met him a couple times. Like I had a private songwriting lesson with him, which was crazy.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
He loved Ron.
Wow.
Okay, here's I'm going to tell you this funny story. This is embarrassing, but I just think it's great. Great, funny, embarrassing story. So we got a private songwriting lesson with Paul McCartney at the end of our time there. And we had to pick one song that we'd written to play for him. And I'd written the song. And at the time, I wasn't like, you know, I'd obviously listened to the Beatles growing up, but like I wasn't at that time a huge fan. I wasn't super familiar with their song titles. And I'd written a song called Carry the Weight. And I had no idea, you know. And so my tutor was like, yeah, you got to play this song for him, obviously knowing that like I had no idea.
Right.
And so I played Paul the song and he was like, this is beautiful. And it was kind of like a very kind of imagine-y song, you know, like I want to start a new religion, like a very kind of like bright-eyed, green-eyed song. And
he loved it though.
And he loved it. And he like made a suggestion and I kept it. And now I have a co-write with Paul McCartney that'll probably never see the light of day. But
oh wow, you should release that. That's so cool.
Yeah, you should maybe. One day.
One day.
But yeah, so I embarrassed myself.
I like literally want to just go to school there just so I can meet Paul McCartney. That's like honestly like my dream in life. Like that is, I'm not a songwriter, but
very nice guy.
I'd pretend I was just to get to meet him. So Patti, what'd you go to school there for? Piano?
No, I went to do like it was a performing arts course. So I did like I actually went there to dance more than music, but it was like performing arts. So there's dancing, music, you know. And then
you had a combination.
It was a combination. My course.
So were you a dancer then through high school?
No. So my journey is really weird. I did a lot of kung fu when I was a kid. And
she was world champion when she was 12. She will never tell you that. But
oh wow! Now it all makes sense with the kung fu coming in at 9 p.m. from kung fu practice.
I hadn't done that for like 25 years or something. You know, I left really early. Like I only did it when I was like a kid. You know, maybe when I was 12. And then
so at 12, you're just like you beat everybody, and you're like, all right, I'm done.
No, it was the kids. It wasn't the adults. It was.
Well, I beat all the kids. So
beat them all up like you were just slaying kids.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. World champion.
She does the sword form as well, so it's just like chopping kids up.
Oh my gosh, that is.
You just do like a form. It's basically like it's more like, you know, at the time, especially the style that I did wushu was very it was very like. It was in a way quite dancey, you know, you get a form and you show it and like stuff like that. So I came from there and then I didn't really dance. Like I took some ballet when I was a kid or some, a little bit, but never really, I wasn't, me and ballet. Anyway, so then I went to school in England as well. And there was an amazing teacher that was a dance teacher. And it was just a sort of like hobby dance kind of course, and I was amazed that they were offering that at school. So I did it, and she was like, oh my God, you're so good, you should do that. And she had such an energy that I decided like, oh, I want to study it, or I want to do like the A levels in dance. And then they didn't do the course because I was like the only one that wanted to do it. So I didn't really dance like ever, but I just loved like, and then I took like a Monday class or something. And then I decided, no, I love it. I love dancing so much. And then I read about this, school, and I was like, I'm going to go there. And then Ika obviously I went and auditioned, and I was like, I'm not going anywhere else. I'm doing this. And then I kind of like, because you have to show a dance or something. And then I just basically did Kung Fu, and they thought it was really interesting. And what was really good about this school is that it wasn't like a normal kind of like, oh, we're concentrating on just like this and this and that. It was like they loved variety. They loved like, so they would have
different ideas,
like getting, there was like 15 of us or something only. And
wow.
And then
in the dance.
Yeah, in the dance. But so you come and doing like Kung Fu dance, and other people probably had other specialties, right? Like
exactly,
ballet
like so
or hip hop, whatever it is.
Ballet, tap, or jazz, and then Kung Fu or whatever.
I mean, in our class too, it was like so many, and like the band The Wombats.
Oh yeah, I love that.
They were
band,
a year below me.
Yeah.
Were they really?
And we would play like the same shows all the time, and like I had a small side project with Tord, the bassist, for a while, and
no way.
Yeah, it was a really awesome school. I mean, we had all sorts of different people like in our class that would it was so diverse, it was so different.
Yeah, and which was really actually cool, like really amazing, actually, in hindsight, thinking about that.
So you awesome. You meet at school. Did you have a chance to meet Paul McCartney too, Patti? I'm just curious now.
I did. He would come into the dance class and he'd bow to us, and then he'd go again. And we'd like, wait, Paul, wait. And then he'd go,
So he's like actively there? Is he like the dean of the school?
He comes,
I don't know about now.
No, I think at the time, I think he had a lot of family there still, and he would frequently go and visit. And then he'd always come like once a year at least, like, or twice a year or something.
He'd always be there at graduation.
And then at graduation, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I need to like meet someone that's going there and just to attend the graduation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a good shot to see him in that.
Yeah.
You can do like a short diploma.
Right, there you go.
Just like do it.
Try to find somebody, pay them to do like online classes through and show up for the ceremony. Oh wow. Okay, so you met.
I feel like we haven't talked about that at all, really. We hardly ever talk about that. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're willing to chat. This is such a cool conversation. I mean,
that
is awesome. Well, that's good. Exclusivity here. Yeah. So you guys met there, obviously at the school, and you start dating. And when do you start playing music together? You said you moved to New York for like a jingle. You were working for a jingle company?
Yeah. So through a family connection, kind of, not really like. Should we tell the whole thing? Like basically Lucy's.
No, it's like a long story.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, I'll just try and keep it short. But like Patty's older sister, Lucy. I was traveling and was living in New York at the time, and started dating this guy who was a partner at this music house, and obviously as a favor to her, gave me a shot at doing some remote work.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jean killed it one night because it was like they were in a pinch and they needed something done, and because
they needed like a 7-minute piece of music done in a night.
And we were on UK time, and like he just delivered, and then the head of the music company was like, "All right, get him here." That was it basically. So yeah, but
a 7-minute piece, like that seems a bit more than a jingle.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And it was for some like Toyota like internal video that didn't really matter, but like they obviously gave it to me, the like new guy.
Yeah.
But then we moved over. They helped us move over, and then that was in 2006, September 2006.
Was that a tough decision to make, or no? Was it like, let's take this? And even for you, Patti, you were down to just move to New York?
Well, I still was kind of working on some stuff in Liverpool, but it wasn't I had just bought my first car, like a used little like Opel Corsa. What do you call it?
Opel Corsa, yeah.
Yeah. And then this came through and I was like, wow, this was probably the worst decision to buy this car right now, because now I have to sell it again. So that was it. But yeah, it was an easy decision.
Yeah, it was easy. I mean, it was funny because for me, like New York really never featured in my imagination of where I wanted to be in my life for some reason. But it was like an obvious, like, okay, like you have to take this opportunity, you know? Because it was just such a level up for us, like just having this opportunity to do it. And it wasn't like the salary was really high or anything. Like we were fortunate over the next couple of years to make some good royalties on stuff, which let us then leave the job and like start our studio and like start St. Lucia and that kind of stuff. And we learned so much doing it, you know, like having to write in a different genre every day, you know, all sorts of genres that I would never normally write in, and learning about synths and stuff. Because before I went there, I was like, I hated synths. I was just like, this is the worst thing ever in the whole world. And then being there, you know, there were just a few analog synths around, and no one at the time was sort of into analog synths. You know, it was that time, and I just took the opportunity to kind of learn about them. And I was like, you know, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to try and kind of excuse the fact that I'm a jingle writer by trying to make the music as real as possible, you know? And so I would just try and use the real instruments and learn about recording and stuff, because I had no idea really.
Oh, wow. So you could use that kind of as your own tool to even expand your own musical knowledge and get paid and kind of all together in one.
Exactly. To me, it was almost like, I feel like I almost learned more being there than at university.
For sure. Yeah.
Because you're actually under real pressure and there's like real money involved, you know, and it's just like when that happens, I think you learn so much. You just, you pull it together.
So you started your guys' studio while you're still working there, and then was St. Lucia a band yet, or how did that start?
Well, so at the time, you know, I had a couple bands in Liverpool, and they ended obviously when we moved, and we stopped going to the school, and then we moved to New York, and then I had a project called Kites, and Patti would sing sort of backing vocals on the stuff, but she wasn't officially kind of part of the band, and we played live, and I met some musicians and we started playing together, and it was just something I would kind of do on my downtime at work or when no one was looking. And I would always try and kind of like do it as well as I could, you know, like try and learn as much as possible. I get it mixed by like a good mix engineer. And then when we left that job, we just made a new EP. And so our band was called Kites. It was my project, it wasn't like a real band. It was like I had a live band. And we had money either to start a studio or to promote this new EP that we made. And so we just like, well,
sorry, Kites.
Then, you know, basically like we had a choice. And and then we were just sort of like, you know, living off some of the royalties that was still coming in and savings and stuff for a while. And for a while it was like kind of scary.
I was working at a wine bar.
Patti was working at a wine bar.
Like, yeah.
And then gradually, you know, I worked on a couple production projects, still did some freelance stuff. Patti was working, we'd work on stuff, and then gradually kind of St. Lucia started to develop. And it was kind of informed by like what we were doing before St. Lucia was very kind of like, you know, indie / alternative rock. And I guess, you know, it was this emergence of like Vampire Weekend, Yeasayer, like those bands that were kind of being kind of worldy, you know, like bringing world influences with the kind of rock and roll thing that made me actually go back and relook at kind of African music and re-listen to some of the guilty pleasure stuff that I loved growing up that I'd become sort of embarrassed about liking over the years, you know, and just kind of started to reabsorb that and started making this music that was kind of naturally joyful and wasn't really holding anything back. And that's kind of where St. Lucia was kind of that, just embracing the sort of where I came from and just the joyfulness and the kind of nostalgic feeling in the music that we were making.
It's curious, or I'm not curious, but it's interesting because I remember when that kind of shift happened, and I come from alternative radio, so I remember like when that kind of happened, when it was more the synthy, like electronic music was making its way into the alternative space. Like you said, Yeager was a big one, like MGMT, like when those bands were coming through, it was like it totally changed. Yeah, it changed the whole like, I mean, like what people thought the alternative scene was. It wasn't just like grunge bands and bands that sounded like grunge bands.
Yeah.
It became like, just a whole different vibe. And then obviously Foster the People and other bands eventually came out of that same world. But that's cool to be like kind of seeing that. And then you guys you can go back and pull some of these influences that you thought maybe, like, I don't know if anyone would care about this, but then obviously it just creates this whole new sound and new genre, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's sort of, it's funny because a lot of people talk about how a lot of artists talk about how music is therapy in a way,
You're right.
And to me it was just kind of like, it's almost this like therapeutic process of kind of living away from home for so long, and just kind of like coming to terms with certain things and where you come from. And I think growing up in South Africa, it was never like a thing, and I mean, obviously this has a lot to do with just being white and white privilege and all these things, but like growing up there, and I feel like all the white kids that I knew that had bands, none of them wanted to sound like African. Like we all wanted to sound like Radiohead or American bands or whatever, So all the bands that we play with, do shows with when I was a kid, all wanted to sound like those bands. And so it really took that for me to discover it and kind of like appreciate really how amazing and magical my childhood was,
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. And when would you say, like, so St. Lucia forms, you start working on just music, and then are you playing out at all at this point, or was it kind of utilizing that studio that you put the money into?
I think it was the studio. It was really cool because there was a time in Williamsburg, especially where the studio was, where there was like an energy and people just getting together, and you would just meet somehow. You would be at the studio, and there was Andy was down the hall, and then later on the Dapkins were there, and like there was like
on our
really
floor,
cool.
The Dapkings had their studios. We were like right next door to the Dapkings, so we'd see like Mark Ronson there the whole time.
Yeah,
I have a funny story
crazy.
with Bruno Mars, where I saved him from being locked in a toilet forever, and then he wrote "Locked Out of Heaven." So
we think it was that.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Like Andy Baldwin, our really, really good friend who mixed a lot of When the Night, and helped us record drums and stuff, was just down the hallway.
And like moved in as well.
Yeah, there was just a vibe, and it was just like one of these like classic Brooklyn loft buildings, that are existing less and less, with just there was the biggest anarchist book publisher in the world.
There was a circus. There was
a circus. There was a bearded lady. It was amazing. It was just this amazing place. You always felt like the freight elevator was gonna drop like any moment when you loaded your gear into it.
This sounds like it'd be such a cool TV show about this building.
That would have been the best TV show. It was amazing. It was like a really cool space. Really,
and actually, the music video for Elevate is about us leaving that space, and it's all
really. I have to go back and watch that.
Everyone got evicted in a way.
Everyone got kicked out because like they were turning it into condos and stuff.
Oh, sure.
So we didn't get served an eviction notice like in the video, but it's a dramatic whatever. But it was a really, really incredible, magical time, when it was.
And isn't this where we also then met Nick Brown?
Yeah, so we then met Nick Brown.
He's kind of the reason why things kind of started like moving ahead. Yeah,
so Nick Brown, who was our original drummer, he played drums on another project I was producing for a friend, and we stayed in touch, and then eventually I started sending him some of the music that I was working on, and he really liked it, and so we just started working on stuff. He played drums on a few things, and when things were at a certain point, he just played them for his cousin, who is DJ B-Rock from the Knox.
Oh, really? I've interviewed him before. That great guys.
Yeah, B-Rock is awesome. And B-Rock then was interested, and we got involved with that label. We signed to them for like I don't know if we signed for the EP or just a single, but we released.
Was that Neon Gold?
Well, first it was just it was Heavy Rock, which is the Knox label.
Okay, Heavy Rock.
We released All Eyes on You and The Old House Is Gone with them.
Oh, sure.
And then we signed to Neon Gold, and we did the EP and the first album with them. And then I think they parted ways with Columbia, and then the rest was with Columbia, and then now we're with
Nettwerk. Yeah. Okay. Wow. So okay. Sorry, let's rewind then. Okay, so back to
it's like a lot of
no. So you just happened, you worked with the one guy that introduced you then to the Knox, and that's kind of what got the ball rolling here. I guess I got lost.
Yeah. Okay. So Nick Brown, who ended up being our original drummer up until When the Night, our first record, was released.
Okay.
He introduced us to Ben from the Knox.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, now I got it.
It's just like, one thing led to another kind of thing, and then
just being around there at that time and things happening, and you pick up on the energy. And, it was a crazy
fond
time.
Memories, really cool time actually.
Yeah, and it was like 10 years ago now. You know, which is so crazy. Like we just celebrated the 10-year anniversary of the first EP, and we did like a whole little retrospective thing, and it was quite emotional.
No, that's so cool. That's I think 10 years later you'd still be doing this, and you know the amount of success that you've had that must be crazy to think.
Yeah, we had a good training for having kids though by having a band, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, there you go.
Although I don't know, man, I'm like beat. I'm like, what is this?
Definitely harder having kids, but it's also,
Well, what was like, I mean, obviously we went over a lot there, but like, what would you say like the next kind of big moment? Was it getting the deal with Neon Gold Records? Was that kind of the next success within the career there?
For sure. I think just for sure.
Yeah,
it's sort of like being like people were just picking up on it, and that it was just like people were loving the sound, and then I just remember things started moving quite fast from there actually.
Well, what's funny, like looking back now, it seems like it happened so fast. Like actually, if you look at that period of like 3 or 4 years, it was like, and then we were playing 2 nights at Terminal 5,
Right.
But at the time it was like, we and these were all pivotal things that lined up to us then, playing 2 nights at Terminal 5 at the end of the When the Night tour. It was signing to Young Gold. Suddenly you sort of get noticed because you're on like a major label, for better or worse. You play South by Southwest. There was one South by Southwest show. I lost my voice and I ran off stage in front of the whole of Sony. And it was just like all these things where you're like, oh my God, we're going to die after this. But then it keeps going. And then, we supported Ellie Goulding on tour. We supported Two Door Cinema Club. We had all these great support slots that were great. We had a few great syncs. Like there was this huge sync for Taco Bell that I was like, oh God, are we really doing a Taco Bell sync? But then
it was amazing. Actually,
but then it did it was maybe one of the hugest things for us. Still the biggest sync that we've had, I think.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah.
And just all of these things, and then that's kind of what contributed to that crazy growth.
Wow. So where were you all when COVID happened, and obviously you were able to write this EP, and did that start before the lockdown happened, or were you guys still in New York when that happened?
Yeah, we were still in New York, but we actually been working on a lot of stuff already.
Okay.
We actually have a whole other album.
Do you really? So is it really, is it Utopia 1? Is that what it is? So is there Utopia 2 then? Right. Okay. So I saw it was Utopia
really
1.
Wrong about that.
And I'm like, is that just like a / I couldn't tell. So I wanted to ask.
No, it's a 1. It's
okay.
So we just, we've always just released albums, and with this whole pandemic, before the pandemic already, we had a lot of unreleased music that we were working on and trying to finish off. And then the pandemic hit, and we started working on a whole other bunch of music that we already started, is basically already all mixed by Peter Cadis, and that's a whole other album. Like that's basically Utopia 3 and 4.
Oh wow! So that was written pre Utopia 1 too.
Well,
and it was...
whatever that may be, we have no idea. You know
right,
what I
I'm
mean?
just
like,
using your
who knows what's gonna happen. It's just
our second option with Nettwerk hasn't even been picked up yet, so we don't even know if we're going to be able to release them.
You're already 4 albums in with them.
It's like I feel like I've seen so many artists doing the same thing, because like, what could anyone do during this time but write music and somehow
also
deal with what was going on?
Exactly. I think this you have to imagine, like, as an artist also, there's all this, like, your whole life has been turned upside down. And if you hone in on it in some way or form or another, or if you're just picking up on like what is going on in the air, you know, and these last 2 years have been crazy, you know, actually crazy for everybody. So I think at one point you just start picking up on whatever, you know, vibe you're feeling, and then out came another whole album, you know.
Well, we made this whole record, and then when the story is kind of like this. So we made this first thing, which we were like, this is done, whatever, but we didn't have a label to release it through yet. So we started the kind of process of that. And while that was happening, we then moved to Germany in February of last year. And I think there was just a sense of kind of relief and release. And, you know, we sort of were feeling like, oh, maybe we need a couple more kind of single-ish songs or something on this album that we made. And we just started writing again. We just were like writing, and it had a different energy. And then we just basically made a whole other album last year.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have a ton of music. I mean, you know, I say that we have Utopia 3 and 4. I don't quite know exactly how it's going to come out yet. But
right. I was just using your example.
You know, and it's there.
That's so cool. So then you get to Germany, and you're in this spot that you're at now, and what you just start working, and out comes all of these new songs, and so I mean, what we'll hear on Utopia 1 is what you're working on in that very area you're at.
1 and 2 is all here basically, apart from drums. And yeah, I mean, it was just, I think it's really like, it's funny because Damon Albarn's new album, I haven't even listened to it yet. I need to listen to it, but I love the title of it. It's something like, the nearer the source, the clearer the stream flows, or something.
Okay.
Close to the well or something, you know, the nearer the well, the clearer the stream flows. And it just made me think of just our last year, because truly this is the first time we've had our like studio, and it's like we have all of our stuff, our keyboards and everything in there. And the fact that we've just had access to that so easily, I mean, sometimes it's hard to like let it go and tune out, which I wish that was easier, but
well, also you're having to deal with like a whole family coming in and out or at all times, you know,
like this is the family house, and everyone is just here, and there's kids running around and stuff, and
but
it's just, I think that there's a certain casualness, and there's a few artists that have talked about this, like Rostam from Vampire Weekend, Vampire Weekend, and a few people have spoken about, you know, how a home studio is like the key, like to, I don't know, just making records that feel good. But I mean, a lot of great records have been made in professional studios too, but I do think that us being here and having the studio here has been really,
helped us
really great for that.
That's so cool. I love the song that's coming out, Would Be Friday. The video and the song, Rock on My Feet, I should say. Tell me, that's such a cool song. Like, is that kind of the vibe of the record?
Yes, kind of.
Okay.
It's, yeah, I mean, I think we just kind of, yeah, there was this point where we sort of, again, moving here to Germany and sort of realizing in retrospect, like how hard the past year has been, and how sort of in this confused and somewhat negative space we've been in, and being here and feeling like you're heading into spring, and just sort of in some subconscious way deciding to look up instead of down, you know, to be positive and to kind of recognize where we as a musical project lie, you know, and how our fans see us. And to a lot of them, it seems, you know, we just realized more because we also started a Patreon. A lot of people see us as this thing that gives them hope or positivity. We get messages all the time on Instagram and stuff from people that say, oh, you helped me through my depression, or I got back from Afghanistan and I was messed up. And then I heard, you know, just these really moving stories. And I think it just inspired us to go and do something that feels hopeful in some way.
Right. Yeah, Rockin' on My Feet, it's just such like an upbeat like vibe. It's a fun song, and most of your songs are very upbeat and like, you know, more of the happy grooves, which is really a very cool thing. And that must mean so much getting these messages from people. Like,
yeah,
you know, yeah. I mean,
it's, you know, obviously there's a lot to us, and like I kind of wish that we could show the other sides a bit more, you know, but that'll come. And we have done it, and we've, you know, there's a lot of the other side on other records, but I don't know. I think it's also important to kind of like recognize where you sit and who you are in kind of the music world. And yeah, I think that's kind of where our minds are at for this new record.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear the rest of it. I love, like I said, that one, the single you have coming out on Friday is so good. And the rest of the record comes out at the end of the month, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
That's and you're doing a big tour to support it, right?
Yes.
I don't know if I'm
it doesn't matter. I mean, dude, like, as long as people know, it's great.
Okay.
Yeah, in the fall, in October, we're touring. We're attempting to take the kids with. I don't know how we're going to do it. Just thinking about it.
Wow.
But we took Indy on our last big tour. Indy's our oldest.
Older.
And he was 9 months at the time.
Yeah, he was 9.
And Patti and him would be at the back of the bus. They'd sleep there. Patti would get like, I don't know, 3 hours of sleep a night.
It was pretty tough for me because I'd be up with him at like 6 and he'd be like, ooh, look at the birds. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
Nice, you know? and then, you know, you play a show, and by the time you wind down, it takes so long. And then, you know, I was breastfeeding still, and it just was a lot. It was like a lot, but I loved it. It just, I would do it again. So I'm just taking 2 instead. We'll take 2 instead.
And I think like Indy before his second birthday was on like 50 flights or something ridiculous, because he would come with us everywhere.
You know? Yeah. Well traveled.
Yeah.
That's cool. That is cool.
This is what we do, you know, and we like it's a family biz.
No,
So,
I love that. I love that. You can bring the whole family, extended family, get some babysitting in there.
I know, I'm trying.
There you go.
They will have kids too. It would be a mess. I never knew how loud it can get. You know what I mean? Like I think I now have gotten used to it, but like when you have like 5 kids in the room at a time, that's already a lot, you know?
That is a lot.
Yeah, you realize how they could totally overpower you and take over.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh, wow.
But yeah, and then when you have the 8 of them, then it's like, oh my God. Yeah, I have a lot of
8. There's 8. There's sometimes like 8.
Charlie's number 8. So we have like 8. My parents have 8 grandkids. So
well, there's 4 of you. You have a brother and then 2 sisters.
Yeah, and then
okay.
And your brother has 3.
Yeah.
He's the oldest. And then
Lucy has 2. I have 2 and Lucy has 1.
Yeah. Whoa. That's a lot of grandbabies.
But it's great. And I love it because I feel like, you know, this was also part of it. You're sitting in New York and you're like, you see, like here, everybody lives about, like, I would say 45 minutes away from one another, or like is the furthest, you know? So within 45 minutes, you can see each other, you know?
That's cool.
My sister lived up the road, so it's like 8 minutes walk.
Wow. John, are your family still in South Africa or no?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
they're the
it's
missing.
a shame. I mean, we up until we went to see them at the start of the year, we hadn't seen them for like
2.5 years.
2.5 years or something.
Wow.
And my mom was booked to come see us in New York on the 15th of March, 2020, which was obviously canceled because we got COVID basically around that time, right at the beginning.
Oh my.
We have a whole bunch of friends that got it at that time, and we were some of the first. And
scary,
you know.
Wow. Well, I mean, with Zoom and all this other stuff, it you know, at least you can.
That's
probably
the one great thing.
Family.
I mean, this is one of the greatest technological innovations. You know, like I find the algorithm stuff with social media highly frustrating. But
of course,
the fact that we can like connect, like we can talk like this, you know, and there's nothing. Like, it's just like direct, and I can do that with my mom and whoever.
Yeah.
This is an amazing thing.
It really is.
I still would opt for beam me up, Scotty, though. That would be my ideal. where it's like so fast that you can just go like, oh yeah, hey, here I am.
Hey,
obviously. Obviously.
Wait for those days. Yeah.
It blows my mind that Skype totally just messed it up. Like, where were they? They had like the monopoly on the video chat, and then
didn't Microsoft buy them or something?
I don't know.
I think Microsoft bought Skype at some point, and then maybe just like bombed it to do something else up.
Yeah, and then Zoom's like, hey, we'll be here taking over everything for the next rest of your life. But yeah, anyway. Well, thank you both so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know it's late there and you have kids, and I just have one more question for the both of you. If you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Follow your gut.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know if I was starting today or if we were starting today, if we would make it the way that we did. Not that you've ever truly made it or whatever, but like, but I would say, you know, people try and get you to do a lot of things that they tell you is in your interest. And almost every time when I look back, if I ever did one of those things, I wish that I had listened to my gut in that time. You know, there's not many times, but like, I think that often, especially when you're starting out, you feel like you don't understand everything. And well, they obviously know because they're in these positions or experience whatever. But they don't know. But
not always, you know.
Yeah, like listen to your gut.
Well, I think it's a tough place. Like, hate to say it, I think it's a tough place, especially with the, like, on one hand, you know, I think it depends on where you want to head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think, you know,
if you want to give up your life, then go for it. If you don't want to give up your life,
but like any career is like that in a way. I think, you know, I don't think there's any career that's not tough in some way. Every career you pay, like with music, in a way, you pay in all these other ways for this freedom that you have. You know, in some sense.
Well, there's huge risk involved in anything.
There's
art.
Huge, yeah. I mean,
but
it's
also,
massive.
I think the most important, just go for it, because, you know, one thing will lead to another, and like, you never know where you're going to end up. It doesn't matter. And
if like your thing doesn't work out, other people will see you doing that. Like, have you seen, you probably haven't seen this, but Jodorowsky's Dune? It's a documentary about this director, Alejandro Jodorowsky, who he's a pretty famous like art house Chilean director. And he was going to be the first person to make Dune, the film Dune.
Okay.
You could get into a really long story here. You just
I'm just going to make it really quick. But he essentially, in the end, after going through everything, couldn't make it because he was short of a bit of money. But like Pink Floyd was going to do the music, like Dali was going to be one of the emperors, like Mick Jagger was going to be in it, like all these crazy. He discovered Geiger, who went on to design the Alien. Like, you got to watch this; it's incredible. But his film never got made. But what he did in creating this basically influenced every sci-fi film going forward. Like, you see all the influences on, like, you can spot it in Star Wars, in Star Trek, in everything moving forward. And it's just such an amazing therapeutic film to watch as a creative person, because obviously, you know, 90% of what you do as a creative person is not successful most of the time. I'm not sure Kevin Parker from Tame Impala. You know, and it's just so vindicating to see that this person who's such a genius, you know, couldn't make a film, but it was so influential still. Bringing it backward.